Welcome in, guys. It's Wednesday, January 13th, I believe is the day. Matt Shenko, and today the Cleveland Browns have hired Hue Jackson, former offensive coordinator of Cincinnati and former head coach of the Oakland Raiders. And both of us are in on the podcast today, and I welcome Matt Shenko into the show. Matt, what's going on? What are your impressions of Hue Jackson going to Cleveland?
I really think this is a great move for the organization. I really like Hue Jackson as a person coming in out of the Raiders. He really had a great campaign for them. It was very unfortunate for him to be let go by the Raiders after such a great season, 8-8, starting out with the Raiders' depleted roster that they did have out there in Oakland. And then he had a chance to be an offensive coordinator for the Bengals, and he really did a great job with that team, leading a 12-4 record under a subpar Andy Dalton and under a couple games with A.J. McCarron. He did a great job with that offense. You know, made A.J. McCarron put up career numbers. You know, Jeremy Hill is a great playmaker in that offense. Really, he did a great job with the play calling. I'm really excited for him to bring to the Browns franchise a good fire that they really do truly need in that offense, you know. And who knows what happens with Johnny Manziel and where he's going to go and how he's going to be able to fit into the Hue Jackson offense. If not, they'll go other ways. But I want to turn it to you on where do you think that Johnny football is going to be implemented into this offense? And if not, where do you think we'll go elsewhere? But we'll see how it goes with everything that's been going on.
Absolutely. Well, one worry I have about Hue Jackson is he didn't have a lot of success in Oakland. And, Matt, you saw the Cincinnati Bengals just embarrass themselves with Adam Peckman-Jones and Tez Burfict. They embarrassed themselves on the national stage on Saturday night when they were getting illegal contact penalties, when they were celebrating after plays. And you look at the Cleveland Browns and their culture, and last week, I believe that the last week of the regular season, you had two guys literally get arrested on the Cleveland Browns. And then you have Josh Gordon, who has an alcohol issue.
True. Yeah, wow.
Comes off of the field. So will Hue Jackson be able to change the culture that he had in Cincinnati? Because even though Marvin Lewis gets into the playoffs by hiring players or getting guys that are a little controversial,
right?
You know, will Hue Jackson be able to run a cleaner team? Because you look at Cincinnati, they have a really bad reputation, Matt. And I'll get to your Manziel point first, but will Hue Jackson, what do you think about the culture of this Browns team going forward?
I'm a little bit shaky. I mean, seeing that they've been fired, they got their like 7th or 8th head coach in the past like 8 years, so like they can't be consistent. They're like almost like the Buccaneers with the Glazers, how they handle their organization. And looking at their organization with the Browns, it's like, when are you going to give these guys a break? You know, the Browns don't really have a lot of talent to work with around them. I mean, a lot of these guys have made really bad decisions off the field, especially with Josh Gordon last year. I believe it was just substance abuse policies that he abused. And there's just other mishaps that they had, and especially with Johnny Manziel, really unfortunate situation for him. I just hope that this new guy that comes in, that I forget his name. He played with he's a manager with the Mets. He managed the Mets for a couple of years, but I hope.
The guy from Moneyball.
Right. Yeah.
Jonah Hill in Moneyball played his character.
Yeah, I really hope that he be able to instill this culture that the Browns are really known for all these years. You know, really building some solid football in the trenches. You know, the dog pound. They got to get that fire back to Cleveland. You know, I know how the Cleveland Cavaliers are like the talk of the town, but they haven't been the talk of the town since the Bernie Kosar days and the Otto Graham days. So they really need to come back and bring up fire and great organization that they really truly are, because they have a lot of great talent, especially coming out in the earlier years, especially with Otto Graham and the guy that just said.
Sure. So, Matt, when I look at this hire, you know, you have Mark D'Antonio of Michigan State. I would have liked them to bring in a college coach. And the Moneyball angle is interesting because now Cleveland is going to try to go into this new era where they're going to take analytics and they're going to try to take it to a whole new level in terms of in terms of hiring players just for their value, like they'll probably look at how many tackles the guy has, how many breakups, how many pass deflection a defensive cornerback will have. They'll look at measurements, and I personally love the decision because let's be honest, I don't think free agents want to go freeze their butts off in Cleveland, Ohio, and it's hard to bring in headline or free agent guys to Cleveland. So they're trying to get an edge in that department. And I personally love the hire. But for Hue Jackson, he's going to have to yield a lot of his power to this new general manager. And Hue Jackson failed already with the Oakland Raiders. Mike Pettine tried to install a defensive-minded team. And I know that you have Crowell on the offensive side of the ball. I know that you have Terry Glass, but your wide receivers are just awful there. You have no quarterback, and the draft is just horrendous. Other than Paxton Lynch, I think the Browns need to get Paxton Lynch because Connor Cook does not have a strong arm. Hackenberg would be better off in Houston with O'Brien. So I think you got to get Paxton Lynch. You got to start over. And I think that Johnny Football wants out of Cleveland, to answer your question. I don't see him voting with Hue Jackson. I think you should get a 6-foot. I think that Paxton Lynch has to be the guy going forward for Hue Jackson. And I'm a little iffy on the hire. I would have liked the college coach. I really liked Antonio at Michigan State. I thought they should have pursued him.
It's really important to evaluate talent, especially from the collegiate to the professional level, because now you're going to bring in a guy like Paxton Lynch. Does he really have the tools to really make a really big impact in this NFL? That has yet to be seen. But if I'm Hue Jackson, would you rather go and get a high top-tier talent, maybe a defensive end, and somebody who can really help you on the defensive side of the ball? The Browns really struggled last year on the defensive side of the ball. Maybe get a guy higher in the draft, and then maybe get a guy later, maybe like a hometown talent like a Cardell Jones, or a couple miles out from get Christian Hackenberg, be able to build your team through that way. Because I know these quarterbacks, they're not really in the first round talent, but they still you can still find talent later in the rounds. I mean, look at Kirk Cousins. He had a great first year with the Redskins at the start, learning a couple of years under the Gruden system. And he now really had a great year. He was a 4th-round pick in 2012. And, you can find guys later in the draft they really mold to be able to bring success to your team. And that's a challenge that Hue Jackson's going to have to figure out in this next coming draft. That's a huge concern for him going forward. Certainly.
Well, the positive thing is that Mike Pettine tried to set up defensively, and they really butchered the draft with Justin Gilbert. They have Hayden out there at cornerback, and he's a really successful player.
Out of Florida, yeah.
Matt Hayden, right? That's his name, right? He's an incredible cornerback, and his leadership is fantastic. So I think you got to get Paxton. You got to get a new face of the franchise. You need stability at the quarterback position, and Hue Jackson needs to make a splash because there's no quarterback later in the rounds. Maybe Carson Wentz is okay. Maybe he could be like another Andy Dalton. But right here, you have defense, and you have 4 years of having a quarterback under his rookie contract. That's huge. That's $700,000. And that's why I think that, even Cincinnati should stay with A.J. McCarron because it's so much cheaper. So I think the Cleveland Browns need to get Paxton Lynch in this draft. And offensively, Hue Jackson is going to have this figured out. He's going to need to bring in a good defensive coordinator, and he's going to need to yield his power to the Moneyball guy. And the Moneyball guy is going to really have to make a ton of moves with this roster and really have massive overhaul. But Matt, Hue Jackson, offensively, they need to improve a lot, and Cleveland's probably thinking, wow, we were horrendous on offense. Hue Jackson's going to have to work the room. Socially, he's going to have to be a lot better than Mike Pettine was with Johnny Manziel, because Pettine was a freaking disaster socially in terms of managing his team. But how many years do you want Jackson, if you're the Cleveland Browns coach, to say? Do you have to roll him for double-digit years? Do you think Jackson can bring success?
Well, that's a great question because you have to look at all the factors of when they find out what the team that you bring out, you have to find out what you think it's very important to bring in as a guy that can bring in all these years of talent and all these years you can bring in to mold these guys. They need stability at basically every position because they've been depleted. They've made constant bad decisions. They're always in rebuilding mode. So you have to let the process let it go its way. It's kind of like the Sixers. They always try to tank and get great talent, but they're not doing a great success for them. I mean, I think that the Browns are a long way to go. They have to just keep fighting through the grind, and I think eventually they're gonna strike gold and they're gonna finally compete in the AFC North, which I think eventually is going to be one of the toughest AFC North or toughest division in the NFL because like all these teams are going to be up in the rise because the Ravens just had a down year. They'll be okay. But then you also have the Steelers who are always going to be there with Mike Tomlin. Then you also have the Bengals who their defense is still a top tier defense in this league. They were 12-4 for a certain reason last year, and now it's going to be one of those things you got to hope that farther down the line you need to hopefully maybe go about 4 or 5 years, and if we're still at the same spot as we were right now, I think you're going to have to fire him because you need to start right away and be able to instill that fire and momentum that we've been talking about over this past video we've been saying.
So the one positive thing about the Browns is they don't really have a great quarterback situation, and we can all agree Andy Dalton, in terms of his arm strength, is not elite in any category. And Jeremy Hill, although Hill and Bernard really had a down year, they've been guys that can run the football effectively. I think Hue Jackson has to have a better culture than Marvin Lewis does if they're going to really be successful in the NFL. They need to have a better culture. He needs to draft a quarterback and get his imprints on this team. And defensively, he has to get rid of players that are not being responsible. I think the hire's a decent guy because Hue Jackson's a coveted name, and he has to yield power, work the room, and socially he has to really bring some fire and energy to Cleveland. And that's where I'm a little skeptical of the hire. Still pretty solid. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. And Matt, Shenko, thanks for joining me. This is the Shenko and Spence Show. We're doing some NFC playoff previews coming up very soon and AFC previews as well. So take care, guys. Brown hire, Hue Jackson.